who is LSU going to hire to be their head coach? And I mean, you've heard a lot of different names, Mario, and right now you're kind of in that second wave of those names being asked about the job again. Jimbo earlier this week was asked about it. He was a lot more adamant about staying at Texas A&M this time. Lincoln Riley was asked again yesterday, and he was very non-committal on what he wanted to say, just that he's the head coach of Oklahoma, and everyone knows how he feels about that place, even though, well, maybe we really don't. He's the name that most of the smoke is really around right now. So with him kind of in the spotlight, what better time than right now to discuss what type of fit he would be at LSU? We kind of dived into it a little bit yesterday because there's been some divisiveness, I feel like, among people, whether Lincoln Riley is a guy that they would want to see coach LSU or not, for many different reasons. But one that, and this is what we touched on yesterday, one that we've heard a lot is, well, he's sustained everything Bob Stoops has done, but he hasn't quite taken it to the next level. And looking deeper into it, I kind of disagree.
Okay.
Because Bob Stoops coached 3 seasons at Oklahoma in the playoff era, and he didn't make the playoff at all. Lincoln Riley in his first year made the playoff, was an overtime loss away from playing for a national championship that year. Now, that's where you come into, of course, he inherited everything that Bob Stoops did, and that's fine. Correct. But he did take it to that next level. Maybe he had some help because of the talent he left, but that's where you really get into the sustaining portion of it. Is, okay, well, even after those teams move on, he continually brought in transfers at quarterback and continually made playoffs and New Year's Six games and won the Big 12 and has never finished with a ranking outside of the top 10. He's 54-9 in his career so far at Oklahoma. The guy wins. The guy is sustained. He's continued to recruit. That part, and I would argue he did kind of take it up a notch by making the playoff after they had 3 chances to do it under Stoops and didn't. Now you got to take it to that next step again, though, and that's where maybe you can have that argument. One argument I definitely see water with is, okay, well, what has he done in the playoff and in the bowl games? And that's fair. 0-3 in the playoffs, 1-3 total in bowls. But again, I would say it's been 3 playoffs and a New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah, we can break this down the whole show if we wanted to. I could play devil's advocate and talk about 3 playoffs, but he's 0-3 each time he faced an SEC team and didn't really have the defense to hang with them. But I'm kind of with you with Lincoln Riley. I think he'd be a good fit, and I will play devil's advocate on this particular coach in a little bit. For right now, what I want to do is flip it back on you. It clearly does make sense for LSU, at least in your opinion, in my opinion, bringing in Lincoln Riley. How much sense does it make for him to make that move from Oklahoma? Because as you said, he wins a lot where he's at. He's been in the playoffs 3 times already. They own that conference in football against, all the supposed big boys in that conference, Texas. And yes, they just lost to Baylor, but recently they've had success and they've owned that conference. LSU, would he make more money? Would he have more talent? Does Oklahoma leaving to the SEC make it more appealing to leave? I mean, I have a lot of questions because right now he's in a really comfortable spot and he's doing a great job at Oklahoma, like you said.
Well, I mean, exactly. And I think that's one reason it's been so hard for people to pull him away. I mean, Lincoln Riley's, his name is brought up in coaching searches, it feels like every offseason, and a lot of time it's for NFL jobs.
Yes.
And he hasn't even left for that. He stayed at Oklahoma. So, no, that's a very credible question. Why would he? Money, maybe.
Yeah.
More resources, maybe a better commitment. The last 3 coaches here have won national championships. I mean, that is something that you look at and say, okay, man, look, I can do it there too if these guys have done it. I mean, one of them's Nick, but that was, of course, before Nick was Nick, and then the other 2 are Les Miles and Ed Orgeron. So there is, I think that there's plenty of opportunity at Oklahoma. But I think that would be the answer, is opportunity, and new opportunity is why you would leave.
Yeah, and I think the recruiting angle is really interesting to all this when you're talking about him being at Oklahoma and him being at LSU. I mean, how hard are they really competing against the Oklahoma States of the world? Yes, they compete against Texas, who's in their general vicinity, but if you come to LSU, you put a fence around the state, you pretty much got it locked down, at least talent-wise. So that's one thing that does make the LSU job appealing. But if I'm him, why do I not just ride it out at Oklahoma until I do get an NFL job that I feel good about? Because he's just 38 years old. That seems to be his end goal, and he kind of fits the mold of what NFL head coaches want, or what organizations want in their NFL head coaches, apparently. A young guy, offensive-minded, innovative. He really fits that mold. And honestly, for LSU, it would make a lot of sense. He's a great coach. He coached the 2 Heisman-winning quarterbacks before Joe Burrow. But if I'm Lincoln Riley, I don't really know how much there is to gain, how much he stands to gain for coming to LSU.
I mean, look, and that's totally fair. I'll be honest with you, Mario. I've long thought that Lincoln would only leave Oklahoma for the NFL.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I'm still kind of thinking
especially
that.
now with them coming to the SEC, but a opportunity. That's the only thing I can come up with.
And we also don't really know what's going behind the scenes at Oklahoma. He says he's happy there. He's paid really well. He's had success, but maybe behind the scenes, he's not happy with some of the stuff they're doing. It was way more visible with Jimbo Fisher, and Florida State was doing a lot worse, but that's why he left a very comfortable environment that he was in. And these are things that you have to consider. We're gonna hear a lot of this. We're gonna hear a lot of speculation, but at the end of the day, that's what it is until pen finally comes to paper. But Lincoln Riley, on the surface, man, especially compared to what we've seen, I think he'd be a great fit. But again, I don't really know why he would do it from his point of view.
And that's the question here. That's the question we're trying to work off is he the right fit for LSU? There's no offer. It's no pen to paper. It's all speculation at this point, like you said. So, I mean, that's all we're getting at, though, is would he be the right fit on the field? I think yes. I mean, I think you'd be crazy to not do that if that's the direction you want to go in. Yeah. I'm not making the hire, so.
No, and like I said, I've said in the past, I mean, I like that you have at least an offensive-minded or defensive-minded head coach. You're no longer relying on the CEO model. You have a play caller, you have that down pat. But obviously the big question, and I guess the big challenge for Lincoln Riley, would be locking down a good defensive coordinator. They've had Alex Grinch since 2019. People say that Oklahoma's defense has gotten better, and I guess statistically they have, but at the end of the day, they have not had the defenses to hang with the big boys. And the first couple of years when he had his most success, 2017, 2018, Mike Stoops was still the defensive coordinator. Bob Stoops' little brother, who he had retained. So he hasn't really shown that he could hire a good defensive coordinator and put together a good defense. He's put together elite offenses at a place where that's good enough to get you all the success that's gotten them, but he has not really fielded even a good defense yet. So for me, that would be the one big caveat coming in, at least on the surface.
Their defense this year is good. I mean, to say they haven't fielded a good defense that's just not fair. I mean, that means they've fielded nothing but bad defenses. So, I mean, their defense, they gave up 24 points a game this year so far. Okay? I mean, look, that's good enough to win in today's college football most of the time because it's a more offensive game, and yes, even in the SEC. It's not elite, no, but it is good. Can they would his defense need to be really good? Yes. And would you need a quicker uptick in that? Yes, because it's been coming along slowly. But I mean, come on, it's a good defensive unit
for their standards, not for what LSU wants. Like I said,
that's the point, though. So yes, you would have to get on a higher trend of that. I'm not disputing that. I'm disputing saying that they don't have a good defense.
Yeah, but like I said, to what LSU wants, I would still argue that they do not have a good defense because, yes, they've improved and they've done well against this competition, but when they've gotten to the nitty-gritty to the college football playoff, the reason they lost is because of their defense. Like, not the LSU game. They got destroyed, both sides of the ball in that one. But against Georgia, they had the offense to hang with that team, and they almost won with Baker Mayfield. And then against Alabama, they almost beat them with Kyler Murray, but they gave up 45 points. I believe they gave up 48 points to Georgia. These are things you can't do. You have to at least be able to hang and maintain. Like you said, yes, it's more about offense in this day and age, but they haven't really put together a defense that shows me confidence that when they do get to the nitty-gritty, he can do that, even at a place like LSU where maybe he would have a better coordinator and a better defense. But to me, that's the one doubt.